They said they were too tired for my birthday, ordered takeout, and went to bed early. I spent the night alone. 3 hours later, my cousin posted stories, a huge dinner out, balloons, even a cake. Everyone smiled. Except me. I said nothing. Until Mom messaged, "We need $3,000 for the mortgage." I replied, "Ask the ones you celebrate with." By 7 a.m., I had 28 missed calls. 32 M, turned 32 last Thursday. Not a milestone birthday by any measure. But it was mine, and I'd mentioned it more than once over the past few weeks. Mom had nodded when I brought it up. Dad had grunted something that sounded like acknowledgement. My younger brother said he'd try to make it work with his schedule. The day arrived quiet and unremarkable. I took the afternoon off work, thinking we might do dinner together like we'd done for everyone else's birthdays this year. I'd even suggested a place. Nothing fancy, just the Italian spot we all liked. Mom had said she'd let me know. By 5 p.m., I texted the family group chat asking what time we were meeting. Mom responded 20 minutes later saying she was exhausted from work and didn't feel up to going out. Dad chimed in that he'd had a long day too. My brother sent a thumbs-up emoji to their messages, which I took as his agreement. They suggested I grab some takeout for everyone and bring it home so we could at least eat together. I sat in my car in the restaurant parking lot for 10 minutes, staring at my phone. The rational part of my brain said it wasn't a big deal. People got tired. Life happened. Birthdays weren't sacred obligations. But something in my chest felt heavy and wrong. I ordered the takeout. 4 different entrees, breadsticks, salad. Spent $73. Drove it home and set everything out on the kitchen table. Mom picked at her pasta while scrolling through her phone. Dad ate in front of the television. My brother took his plate to his room, saying he had a headache and needed to lie down early. By 8:30, everyone had disappeared to their respective corners of the house. The kitchen table still had 3/4 of the food sitting out, getting cold. No one had mentioned my birthday after I'd walked in with the bags. Not once. I cleaned up alone, wrapping leftovers in silence, loading the dishwasher, wiping down counters that didn't need wiping. Then I went to my room and sat on my bed with the lights off, scrolling through my phone because I didn't know what else to do with the strange, hollow feeling expanding in my ribs. That's when I saw it. My cousin had posted an Instagram story. The first slide showed a restaurant table absolutely loaded with food. Steaks, seafood platters, wine glasses catching the light. The second showed balloons tied to the backs of chairs, shiny metallic ones in gold and silver. The third was a cake, professionally decorated with elaborate frosting flowers. I tapped through. More photos. My parents sat at the head of the table, my mother mid-laugh at something, her face bright and animated in a way I hadn't seen in months. My father had his arm around her shoulders. My brother was there too, grinning at the camera with a drink raised. At least 15 people filled the frame. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends. The timestamp said it was happening right now. Posted 47 minutes ago. I went through each story twice, my thumb moving automatically, my brain trying to process what I was seeing. The caption on one read, "Family is everything. So grateful for nights like these." I checked the location tag. A steakhouse across town. The kind of place where entrees started at $40. My hands were shaking. I set the phone face down on my bed and stared at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the plaster I'd memorized years ago. The house was completely silent around me. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just lay there feeling something fundamental shift inside my understanding of where I stood. The next morning, I woke up to the sounds of normal Friday routines. Shower running. Coffee brewing. My mother humming in the kitchen. I got dressed and left for work without saying anything to anyone. My brother was still asleep. Dad had already left. At lunch, I texted my cousin asking about the dinner. She responded enthusiastically, saying it had been amazing, that someone's promotion had been the excuse to gather everyone. She sent me 3 more photos I hadn't seen, my parents cutting into steaks, my brother photobombing a group shot, everyone raising glasses in a toast. I asked if it had been planned long. She said about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I'd mentioned my birthday to my mother 16 days ago. I didn't respond after that. I turned my phone face down on my desk and finished my work in a haze of mechanical efficiency that surprised even me. Numbers, spreadsheets, emails, all of it flowed through my hands without touching whatever was happening deeper inside. Saturday and Sunday passed in a fog. I stayed in my room mostly, headphones on, catching up on projects I'd been putting off. My family moved through the house like ghosts I occasionally glimpsed in doorways. No one asked if I was okay. No one mentioned Thursday night. Monday morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. The message was straightforward, almost businesslike. They were short on the mortgage payment this month. Some unexpected expenses had come up. Could I help with $3,000? She'd pay me back by the end of next month. I stared at the message for a long time. My coffee went cold in my hand. This wasn't the first time. I'd been helping with house expenses since I'd moved back home after college 8 years ago. The arrangement had made sense initially. I was saving money on rent. They were struggling with bills after Dad's hours got cut. But Dad's hours had been restored 3 years ago. My contributions had never decreased. I thought about Thursday night. About $73 in takeout I'd bought for people too tired to celebrate with me. About 15 people at a steakhouse. About gold balloons and professional cake and my mother's face bright with laughter. I typed out my response carefully, deleted it, typed it again, sent it before I could reconsider, asked the ones you celebrate with. Then I muted the conversation and put my phone in my desk drawer. Work swallowed the rest of Monday. I stayed late, volunteering for a project no one else wanted, anything to delay going home. When I finally pulled into the driveway at nearly 9 p.m., every light in the house was on. The moment I walked in, Mom appeared in the hallway. Her face was blotchy, her eyes red. She asked what the hell my text was supposed to mean, why I was being cruel, didn't I understand they were going to lose the house? I walked past her to the kitchen, suddenly starving. Dad was at the table, his jaw tight, his fingers drumming against the wood. My brother leaned against the counter, arms crossed, looking anywhere but at me. Mom followed, her voice rising. She said I was being selfish, that family helped family, that she couldn't believe I'd choose now to throw a tantrum over something so petty. The word petty did something to me. I turned around and asked, very calmly, what she'd spent at the steakhouse on Thursday. She blinked, caught off guard. Dad's drumming stopped. My brother's eyes finally found mine. She stammered that it wasn't relevant, that it had been a special occasion, that I didn't understand. I asked how much. She didn't answer. My brother did, his voice quiet. Around 1800, including drinks and tip. The silence that followed felt like pressure building behind my eyes. I asked if anyone remembered what Thursday was. More silence. Mom's face shifted from anger to something closer to panic. I told them, since they seemed to have forgotten, that Thursday had been my birthday. That I'd asked about dinner and been told everyone was too tired. That I'd bought takeout and eaten alone, while they'd apparently been getting ready to go across town for a party they'd been planning for 2 weeks. My mother started to speak, but I wasn't finished. I said I'd been contributing to this household for 8 years. That I'd paid for repairs, utilities, groceries, medical bills, car payments. That I'd given them nearly $80,000 over the years while living in the same small room I'd had since high school, never complaining. Never asking for anything except to feel like I was part of this family instead of a checkbook they kept in the guest room. Dad stood up, said I was being dramatic, that we'd just forgotten and it wasn't intentional. He said these things happen and I needed to be more understanding. I asked him to leave my room by the end of the week. All of them looked at me like I'd started speaking another language. I repeated myself. I said I was done, that I'd find an apartment and be out by Sunday and they could figure out their mortgage without me. Mom started crying, saying I couldn't do this, that they needed me, that I was overreacting. My brother finally spoke up, his voice defensive, saying I was being vindictive over one mistake. One mistake, he called it. I went to my room and closed the door, locked it, sat on my bed and opened my laptop and started searching for apartments available immediately. My hands were still steady. My breathing was still even. Whatever was happening to me felt less like anger and more like waking up. Update 1. It's been 3 days since I told them I was leaving. The missed calls started that first night, 28 by 7 a.m., like I mentioned. I didn't answer any of them. Text messages piled up. Mom, Dad, my brother, even a few cousins who'd apparently heard some version of events. Tuesday morning I called in sick to work and spent 6 hours looking at apartments. By Tuesday evening I'd put down a deposit on a 1-bedroom 15 minutes from my office. Small, older building, but clean and entirely mine. Move-in date, Saturday. I came home late Tuesday night hoping everyone would be asleep. They weren't. The intervention was waiting for me in the living room. Mom and Dad on the couch, my brother in the armchair, and surprisingly, my aunt and the same cousin who'd posted the stories. My aunt started by saying she'd heard there was a misunderstanding and wanted to help mediate. I told her there was nothing to mediate. Mom jumped in, her voice shaking, saying I couldn't throw away our family over a birthday dinner. I corrected her. Not a birthday dinner, the absence of one, and not throwing anything away, just stopping the pattern where I paid for the privilege of being forgotten. My cousin, to her credit, looked uncomfortable. She admitted she'd had no idea it was my birthday that night, that if she'd known she would have said something. I believed her. This wasn't her fault. Dad tried a different approach. He said I was right, that they'd messed up, but that moving out wouldn't solve anything. He promised they'd make it up to me, do something special, anything I wanted. I asked if they'd found a way to cover the mortgage. The question hung in the air. My brother muttered that they were working on it. My aunt offered to help with $500. I told them I appreciated the offer to my aunt, but that I was still leaving. That this wasn't punishment, it was just time. I was 32 and had been living in a holding pattern, waiting to be seen by people who apparently needed to lose my financial support before they'd notice I existed as more than a convenient ATM. Mom called me ungrateful, said everything they'd done for me, raising me, giving me a home, and this was how I repaid them. Something snapped. I asked her to itemize what they'd given me in the past 8 years. She started to speak, stopped, started again. She mentioned letting me live there, the family dinners, the support. I pulled out my phone and opened a spreadsheet I'd made that afternoon. Read off numbers. $83,000. Contributed over 8 years. Mortgage payments, emergency expenses, medical bills, car repairs, utilities, groceries. Averaged to nearly $900 a month. More than I'd pay and rent most places. I showed them the screen. The room went quiet. My brother said I was keeping score like some kind of psychopath. I told him I wasn't keeping score. I was recognizing a pattern, and the pattern was that I'd been paying market rate rent to live in a house where I was valued less than the balloons at someone else's party. My aunt tried to calm things down, suggesting maybe some family therapy, some space to work through this. I agreed with the space part, told them I'd be moved out by Sunday and would be limiting contact for a while. I went to my room before anyone could respond. Started packing that night. Update 2. Saturday came faster than I expected. I'd taken Friday off, spent it moving boxes to the new apartment, setting up utilities, buying the basics. A friend from work helped me load furniture I'd bought years ago, but that my family had somehow convinced me was there since it was in the house. My mother stayed in her room all of Saturday morning. I could hear her crying through the walls while I carried the last of my things to my car. Dad watched from the living room doorway, but didn't say anything. My brother had left Friday night, staying with friends, avoiding the whole thing. As I was loading the final box, my mother came downstairs. Her face was blotchy and swollen. She asked if I really was doing this, if I really hated them this much. I told her I didn't hate anyone, that I loved them, which was why this hurt. But love wasn't enough to keep volunteering for invisibility. She said I was breaking her heart, that I was choosing money over family. I stopped, turned around, and asked her directly, did she remember my birthday now? Did she remember what it felt like to realize the people who were supposed to love you most had literally forgotten you existed while planning a party for someone else? She didn't answer, just cried harder. I softened, despite everything, told her I wasn't disappearing forever, that I needed distance to figure out who I was outside of being their financial backup plan, that maybe someday we could rebuild something real. But it had to start with them seeing me as a person instead of a checkbook. She asked what they were supposed to do about the mortgage. I almost laughed, even now, in the middle of this, the money. I told her the same thing I'd said in my text: ask the people you celebrate with, downsize, cut expenses, the same things any adult would do. I left my key on the kitchen counter and walked out. The apartment is quiet in a way the house never was. No one's footsteps overhead. No muffled TV through the walls. Just my own breathing and the hum of the refrigerator and the strange lightness of not carrying something I didn't realize was so heavy. It's been a week. My phone still buzzes occasionally, my mother mostly, some apologetic text from my brother, one long email from my dad that I haven't opened yet. My cousin sent me a message apologizing for her part in it all, saying she genuinely didn't know and felt terrible. I've been sleeping better, eating actual meals instead of whatever was left in the fridge after everyone else picked through it, making decisions about my own space, where furniture goes, what's on the walls, what time I eat dinner, small things. Quiet things. I don't know if my family will figure out the mortgage. Part of me hopes they do, hopes this wakes them up to something. Part of me knows it probably won't matter either way. The damage is in patterns years deep, not one missed birthday. But I'm starting to understand something I should have learned a long time ago. You can't force people to see you. You can only decide whether you'll keep standing in their blind spot, hoping they'll eventually glance your direction. I'm done hoping. I'm here now, in my small apartment with its creaky floors and the neighbor who plays piano at odd hours. And I'm learning what it feels like to exist in a space where my presence isn't measured by what I contribute but simply by the fact that I'm here. It feels like breathing after holding my breath for 8 years. Maybe someday I'll talk to them again. Maybe we'll find a way back to something that looks like family. But it won't be the old way, where I paid for a seat at a table I never actually got to sit at. For now, I'm okay with the quiet. For now, I'm okay with being enough, all by myself.